and welcome to edumate.tv. I'm Chetan. We learn to live and live to learn in what has turned out to be an unprecedented situation, an unprecedented pandemic, with history being written across the geography of Mother Earth. And a minor virus has created a major catastrophe, making us all rewind, reset, rethink, reboot before we rebuild a new world, a new normal, a new education world. The only thing constant, they say, is change. And the only thing certain these days is uncertainty. While all progress necessitates change, all change does not lead to progress. And that's where the dilemma lies in the new world. What is correct and what is not? And is there anything that will be correct, or it will be an ever-changing process as we look at solutions to overcome some very new and unique challenges? And to do that, at edumate.tv, we assume, we analyze, anticipate in our candid COVID classroom, where we meet and greet the new normal. This episode is brought to you by Education that looks at education ahead. It's presented, I say, very proudly by the Royal Global University in Assam. So a very warm welcome to each and every one of you, luminaries in the world of education. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being with us on this very special symposium. We see that the center is issuing some instructions, but states are willing to do something of their own. So there's no clear-cut unanimity, but the fact of the matter is, it reflects a couple of things. A, the situation is unique. B, everybody's trying to find a unique solution, and everybody's trying to proceed within the limitations of the way they look at things.
This point of view that the UGC, Ministry of HRD, and universities across the country and states are having little variation in their thinking process, and they are trying to plan according to situation in their state, situation in their setup, and what kind of students they have, digitally connected or having problems with the digital way. So, I mean, Haryana, UP, and many states are thinking of opening the campus in July. And at the same time, HRD is giving direction to UGC about the final year examination to be done by distance mode or not to be done at all, because earlier notification of UGC said clearly that we can conduct the examination of the final year in the month of July. So it all depends upon situation. So I think still, I would say that the final word has not come. We are in a position to wait and watch. Each education minister of every state is waiting and watching, taking care of the situation of the COVID in their state, and also understanding that how we can start the campuses, if at all. So the recent notification which I've seen from MHA is related to that till 31st of July, probably we are not going to start the campuses at all. So this is a little tricky situation. I think today we cannot absolutely say that what is going to happen in another 15-20 days. But it all seems to be very positive once the lockdown 2.0 will continue and been announced. Other than few states like Assam, we have lockdown of 14 days. Maharashtra also, Mumbai. Assam, in fact, I'm talking about Guwahati, not the whole Assam. So the situation is going to change in due course of time. But it seems we are going in the right positive direction. And I'm expecting that universities and schools will reopen in the month of August.
It is almost now 6 months. And we have not been as yet able to crystallize a solution for the education sector. Education being such an important sector, not only for our country alone, for the entire world. And if pandemic is affecting us health-wise and economy-wise today, and for the near future, but then education, if you stop it now, it will be impacting upon us for many, many years to come. This is the negative part of it. And I feel that as academics, we should have already been geared up to come up with an alternative. And it seems there is no alternative as yet, 6 months on. So we have to think about new pedagogy. It is not about the technology. Technology will be there. We have technology, online technology, but this technology platform requires different brand of pedagogy. Otherwise, it will be not that engagement with the students, engagement with the pupils will be not effective, and it will be not foolproof effective at all. We have to go for digital, no doubt about it. But please remember, we cannot idealize it as well.
Sure.
My concern is that COVID has created a lot of devastation, but it has also given a lot of opportunity to us to experiment with. Educational opportunity gap between the rich and poor have been widened, but research says, one of the article I read from University of Hyderabad, only 1/3 of students are attending online teaching. This is not a good situation. There is no harm in online teaching, but the way we organize online teaching needs to be improved. Technology should not control us. In fact, technology should be a value addition to our teaching. Our teaching needs to be more effective. We should know who are there, our target group who are there, and how do they learn. That we should know.
Professor Sharma, your reflection on some of the headlines. I know you've been very articulate and very verbose, particularly on the examination system and perhaps its loss of credibility and faith.
What immediately comes to my mind is that we should have preempted this. Look at different states, they are all speaking different language. And this was expected. For a large country like India, you cannot have a centralized decision-making body deciding for the whole country. And I appreciate Professor S.P. Singh. We should have left what S.P. Singh wants to do with his university instead of. I shouldn't be saying that. I'm surprised that Professor Singh says we are waiting for the instructions to come. The Vice Chancellor is head of the institution. The Chief Operating Officer, he or she should know how he or she would run the institution. So we made a mistake by taking central decisions from Delhi for all states. Just as we have made a mistake of closing down all the schools across the country, which was not required. In certain areas, you don't have COVID problem, let children come to school. Similarly, for examination and teaching learning process in colleges as well as universities, we should not have taken one single decision for the whole country. And very well said, Chetan, we are not realizing one thing. What percent of the national population is affected by COVID today? As an academic, I am concerned about the health of people, the physical health, but I am more concerned about the academic and the mental health of my children. 40 crore children are in academic institution. You are mismanaging students. They are all getting ill. 2021, you will realize we were managing health of people and the country. We mismanaged the mental and the academic health of my children. 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old have been put before laptops for 8 hours. Why am I raising these issues? One, we mismanaged distance education. We should have made it robust the way we had done through the Distance Education Council of India. If we had progressed with the Distance Education Council, which was shut down in about 2006-07, that was a wrong decision. We would have got a robust distance education. And second is, let the autonomy of institution. And I will like to refer to all. We have a tendency in India to forget the past. Read the Kanti Biswas Committee report of the Central Advisory Board on Education on autonomy of institutions. Kanti Viswas committee clearly says, leave it to the university, let the universities decide. I don't think from your headlines it appears the whole country is waiting for one or two people or one or two organizations to decide for them. That should not happen. Let the vice chancellor of the university decide for the university. Let the class teacher decide for the class. Let the principal of a school decide for the school. I have talked to many principals across the country. They say there is not a single case of COVID in my area, and my children are suffering. My teachers are not able to cope up with the online teaching. Why are we subjected? And then the issue of availability of technology comes, because look at the remote districts. They don't have technology and they don't even have COVID. Why not permit the principal to organize classes and let her decide whether the whole school will come the same day or she would invite some students on those days? But centralized decision making is making, I think, a lot of confusion in education sector. We should decentralize decision making, leave it to the states and the universities, the vice chancellors. I'm very worried. No decision is being taken by the vice chancellor. We vice chancellor are treated like doormats. They are given the orders. That should not happen. That is damaging the institutions and also damaging the health of academic and students.
So thank you very much for highlighting those points. I know you work very closely with the government, and I'm sure you're putting it forward to them that it's about time that we allow and we need to invoke independency in the overall structure of working and allow professionals like Professor S.P. Singh and various other vice chancellors who have been on our shows to function the way they have to, because they know best what needs to be done. I think that level of independency is very, very important. So thank you for highlighting that. And of course, we at EduMate TV believe that in a democratic environment, it's very important for all voices to be heard. And a repository of all these voices, whether it's parents, students, teachers, academicians, educationists, edupreneurs, vice principals, principals, and of course, vice chancellors, all voices will all be congregated in a white paper, which I will be submitting to the government at the end of September, which will highlight the challenges and take a peek at the possible solutions. Well, the challenges are being faced not just by the universities, they're being faced by even a greater intensity by the schools. And for that, we invite some very special principals with us. Let's hear from each and every one of these principals who've taken their time out to come and highlight the challenges that each of them are facing. Let's start with Mrs. Anubha Goyal, Principal of the Royal Global School. Thank you for joining us, Anubha ma'am. Please talk us through your challenges.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma and EduMate TV for having me here this evening. At the school level, frankly speaking, I think what is of utmost importance is Jaan hai to Jahan hai. With this COVID-19 pandemic, I don't think I as a principal would want to take the chance of calling the children or the teachers to school till we are sure there is a vaccine. We have come across a lot of challenges, and it's not only for our school, but for society at large. And I feel as far as school children are concerned, whether it's with the haves or have-nots, a year of missing academics within the classroom has not much significance. Because we do believe a lot of learning also happens beyond the classrooms. Today, our children are 24/7 with their parents. For those who don't have the facility of doing online classes, are also going through something and they're learning to survive. And this in its own is the best and the most important learning. We are always most concerned about academics and the IQ of children. But I feel as a school principal, what is of utmost importance is the EQ of the children, and to ensure that at this level, right from the pre-nursery to the middle school to the senior school, every child has qualities of resilience, tolerance, patience. And these are what need to be given more importance then how to really learn addition, subtraction. And if they do that, I think we achieve so much more. We do believe that change is constant. Change is the only thing that's constant. And to be able to adapt to change is the biggest learning that we could have given to our children. Again, I think through this pandemic, our children have learned that more than anything else, they've put a stop to the maddening rush to do more, achieve more, earn more, and to satiate our own self-centered wants. And this is a big learning.
Well, thank you for that piece on EQ. I think it's so important when principals start looking at EQ over IQ, you will have a holistic education. Let me just add another Q to that, the AQ factor, which is the adaptability quotient factor, which I think, builds about a cusp between the two. Because when you are hit with pandemics, the adaptation, the flexibility to adapt is very critical. Thank you for those comments, Madam Anubha. Mrs. Mandira Chanda, what are your concerns that you face on the ground on a regular basis?
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Chetan. What has been affecting me so much is that, see, in the blink of an eye, the entire world has changed. The gates of the school has closed down, but actually the teaching is going on. And these are I will call them the academic warriors who is making it possible, making the heartbeat of the education going on. Certain teachers who were not used to ITC, they are now suddenly having to take up online classes, and now the principals, administrators are trying to train them up, and they're doing their bit. They're doing all that they can. And the biggest concern is like Anubha had said, what I feel is that the physical, mental, as well as the emotional state of mind of the children. Because when they are at home for like almost 6 months, they are at home, and when they come back to school, and how well they would adapt to the situation again. Because I don't believe that we are going to go back to that normal school situation again, because online teaching is now here to stay. And of course, if I want to say something to the government, I will say, make this internet facility available in all nooks and corners of our country. Because now that the school is closed, many teachers have gone home. And of course, please give some credit to the teachers who are suddenly, from the blue, the paradigm shift that has taken place, shifting from the regular classes to the online classes. So they need, just like the applauses we give to the doctors and the others, these warriors also need some praises, appreciation. Thank you.
Absolutely, by all means, definitely need a lot of praise, and so do you principals. Madam, thank you for highlighting the very sinister digital divide which concerns all of us. This country's been divided on various accounts in the past. We certainly cannot afford another divide, and particularly on the education front. And the digital scenario does threaten that. But I can assure you a lot of work has been going on in the government, state governments, as well as the private sector and the central government in trying to bridge this gap. But yes, the speed and the efficacy is bound to be questioned. Mr. Lalram Siama Ralte, Principal of Royal Global School, thank you for joining us. You have taken the initiative of starting your own school, and that is quite a tell. Your position and your situation is a bit unique from that point of view, but your concerns would be large as well.
The situation here in Mizoram is very different from the situation down there in the mainland India. So all of us in the Indian education has been ambushed. Now we have seen we are not prepared at all, nothing. So comparing to the cities like yours, the cities, the states, especially the northeast, even the Assam, they are in a proper way, I think. But others, we lack this kind of thing. We have been introducing lately the online studies, but that also was not much appreciated by the government. So my concern over this is that the center should have a strong part taken even to the states and union territories.
The previous speaker, Lalram Siama Lalte, he is also from northeastern state, Mizoram, and I am from Manipur, and we almost share the same problem. Despite of the fact that we try very hard, our team, school management, teachers, everyone is trying so hard to connect with students. We try our best to connect online. We have already started right from April, but because of various factors, like many of the students are from Hindi areas, and many students are from rural areas, and many people are under poverty line. So it's very difficult for them to connect through online, and we have a very difficult situation here, even though, but we have tried our best. Even we have tried our best to send books as well as textbook to their doorstep. We have even tried this also, because they could not, because of transportation factors, they cannot go out. But we have already tried taking permission from government also. So I think the solution here we need to consider is can be divided into two. One is short term and another is long term. So the short term, I think what Professor C.D. Sharma had just mentioned about autonomy of school, I think this one, like decentralization of school, I think this is one of such solution, I guess, because as our Sir Lalrim Syama Lalpe has just said, our effort is not been recognized by government. And instead of that, recently the government of Manipur interfered in this case regarding the regulation of fees, and the education commissioner of Department of Manipur had just ordered that the schools, private schools with more than 700 students, they are not allowed to take monthly fees from students, even though we can take admission fees. And the teacher's salary should be paid full for 4 months, like April, May, June, and July. And there is no further order for August also. So as a private school, we all know we run our school from the admission fees and monthly fees. There is no other source of income. And many of our teachers, without even getting a single pay, we are all working, and the management is also trying hard to fill up this connection. But the government is not like appreciating, and I think the government, teachers, all the stakeholders in the education should come together. Recently, the government have tried in Manipur. There was a consultative meeting regarding the education, but I think because of the order, recent order of the government regarding the regulation of fees, most of the private organization, there is a group of known as the United Association of Recognized Schools of Manipur. We are also part of it, and we denied this consultative meeting because the order was not in favor of the private schools. So what I'm trying to say is that there should not be any kind of misunderstanding. Our efforts should be, I think, recognized by government. We are also trying our best from our side to have a good connection with the students.
Yes, of course, we have faced so many problems, the internet problems, and the students, some of them, they are not paying much attention about these online classes, and it's quite a problem. And most of the some of the schools, parents, they don't want to pay fees because the class are not regular and all. So all these problems are there. But from my point of view, this COVID-19 and the introduction of the technology may bring a positive change in our system of education, because see, in the past, even though we have this technology, mobile phones and all these things, but most of the youngsters, they are busy with the social media, the games and all. But today, the introduction of this online class and others can bring something change in the education system.
We have been the creature, I would say, in the earth, and the best, gifted from God. We can adapt to situation. So for which we are adapting very well, I would say that. And congratulations to all. And this situation has become a very positive, I would say. We should not think in the negative aspect, because COVID-19 has made us more human and to understand the situation as how actually a human should behave. So it was a blessing that COVID-19 has come. And I feel that such situations sometimes should come in humans' life to retrospect ourselves and to see what changes we need to have. And this has become a blessing in disguise. India has, from the north to south, east to west, we are from a different background, from culturally, language, geographically, or in climatic condition, many. We cannot use the same yardstick all over, because we have all mentioned, all have raised their issues about the internet connectivity and so on. And there are many more, I would say that. And preferably, I would say that in our context in Nagaland, we have about 16 major tribes. Every tribe speaks different language. Everybody has a different concern. And every people are living in a different geographical location and having different kind of a problem in their own. So we cannot club everybody together. So I would say that Government of India should look into a very different horizon, I would say that. Acting smart would be good in the level of the people where understanding becomes very, very proactive. The private school is the second highest of giving employment generation to the people. And I think it's the same to every school, I would say, in private school across India. See, private schools are doing actually the spade work. They are doing actually the entire lifting of the entire human race to a better level. So I would say very directly say that we need to give equitable distribution of funds to all the districts, to all the states. When you look at education, I would say that bookish knowledge is not everything. India was known, I would say, for education. You can see the oldest Nalanda, Takshila, the foreign people used to come here to study, to gain knowledge, to get something. Most enlightenment was got in India.
Well, thank you for your views, and I think thank you for paying credence to the candid COVID classroom part.
COVID-19 has created a great problem, not to India only, but to the entire world. It is affecting the education system of India. But we should not accuse the Vice Chancellors or Education Department of the government for this situation. We should not be a problem, we should not be a part of the problem, but we should be a solution to the problem. How to solve this problem? The students are sitting in their home, so online class is not the solution, because particularly in Assam, the whole Assam is now affected by flood system. Most of the students do not have their electrical connections. Poor students do not have their electrical connections in their home, and some students do not have their smartphone. So online classes is not the solution to this situation.
I also spoke to the Education Minister of Manipur in a convention that we'd held in New Delhi some time back. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
And what is it that's required to make our education system more skewed towards employability?
Many engineers who are employed, they are not employable. That means there is something wrong with our education system. So, education has to be, the magic word is relevance. What you teach them, what they learn has to be relevant at that particular point of time.
How much do you think, you of course, you're a young minister yourself and you interact with the youth all the time. Where do you feel that their pain points are at this time?
We are still following the British system of education. Up to some extent it is right, but completely it may not be correct, because many of our young minds, our people are working in Houston, in NASA. Many are employed in other countries. So if we were to produce, our system is just to produce clerks, they would have not been working there. So that may not be completely correct, but change is the only permanent thing. So India is not behind. We are also, moving very fast. I have a dream. You see, students, they go from the village to the city for studies. from the cities, they go to abroad. They go abroad for studies. Do you see anybody coming from abroad to study in the city, or anybody from the city to the village? No. Why? So my dream is I would like to bring people from city for studies to the rural area and the village. That is my dream.
There you are. Some interesting thoughts from the government. It's not always the way we look at it. There is a level of at least thought in the innovative way, and thought gives word to action. We need to respect that as well.
Such a beautiful part of India. And we often obviously talk about it being somewhat lesser developed, but it's also lesser discovered. Perhaps this is an opportunity, for you to actually encourage people from outside Nagaland to be a part of the Nagaland education system.
Chetanji, I think what you have just pointed out is one of the very evident points where Nagaland and, Purvottar, that is the northeastern parts of the northeast, are still very undiscovered. Today, if we look at states like Meghalaya, they have become a hub of education. And even Nagaland, with its pristine environment and with its climatic beauty of the, vibrant human resource and also tech-savvy young people, I think we can be a tool in the days to come to go use digital mediums of education system, not only for Nagaland, but also for the rest of the country and for many other viable places where education can be reached through the digital medium.
We often talk about the value of education, right? Why does a person get educated? Of course, sure enough that he wants to be more aware, wants a better understanding of life. But at the end of it all, if education does not lead to employment, in a situation like this where, India's unemployment at a 45-year high, and of course, post-COVID is bound to get worse, employability itself is a very important part of our education system. Do you believe that?
Employability has always been a huge problem. Due to this pandemic, there is a different spectrum of a different challenge now. So in schools and colleges, it has become very important to introduce vocational studies. Especially in higher education, employability, I believe that the people of our country, including the Naga young men and women, are very resource rich, especially in human resource. So we, the Naga youth, men and women, are looking forward to be part of this great skill India, entrepreneur India, and provide not only for our country, but for the rest of the world also in the little way that we can.
Now, you've heard a cross-section of voices. You've heard the concerns, very genuine concerns of our dear principals. You've heard some assurances coming from the government. You've heard the voice being raised to empower people like you at the helm of universities, to be more powerful and to have more control and a greater say in the education system, a greater independence in the education system of this country. You've heard it all. Now, I know as an individual, Dr. Singh, you have been a great propagator of innovation. And I know that you have advocated a lot of that at the Royal Global University. Talk us through the solutions that you have introduced so that will inspire our principals as well.
We have full faith in the government of India, government of Assam, or maybe all those seniors जो हमारे अग्रज हैं, उन पे हमें पूरा भरोसा है. This is a difficult time. COVID time is a difficult time. And whatever directions we are not following as a vice chancellor. We are following as a human being also, keeping in mind the safety and security of the nation, number one, safety and security of our teachers and students, and all the guidelines, whatever comes from Ministry of HRD, from UGC, from AICT, they are in the terms of guideline. I can say and assure each and every participant, and especially to all the panelists, that we vice chancellors are absolutely free to decide. There is nobody who can impose anything on us. It is a guideline matter, and we are dealing the way we want to deal the situation. I don't know about the government vice chancellors. My chancellor, maybe he's present also on this webinar. My chancellor, as a vice chancellor, and I know at least 500 vice chancellors of the private sector. I can say they are very, very proud to be a vice chancellor, and they are taking decisions based upon their prudence. And rest of the things, whichever is coming from the government, we are taking it as a precaution. It's a guideline, but we are working for the betterment of the student. People might say anything about the vice chancellor. That is their psyche, that is their mindset. They can use any word for them, but I have full faith in my profession and my office. And I'm very sure about it. In the last 6 years, I've seen the importance and courage the vice chancellor can have and decide about the future of the university and future of the children. So this is one point. I'm taking the thread from that, but I have full faith in my minister. I have full faith in my government, and whatever directions or whatever guidelines will come, we'll see a blended form of it. Depending upon my university, my state, my situation, will decide, and that will be independent decision. That is number one. Number two, as far as innovation is concerned, I'm on a positive side. I always remain on a positive side till the time this COVID will go, or maybe it will take time. I pray to the God that we all should remain positive to the best possible way. But I would say that the students all across are very keen to learn. I tell you today, higher education, I know from village to my villages, I still go to village, from my village in UP to any place in the country, a student of higher education cannot live without connectivity. But then this situation will remain for a longer time. We have to be positive. We have to decide the fate of our students, our university, our school, and for that we have to be a little courageous. I'm here with Professor C.B. Sharma, Chandraban Sharma ji, that we have to think positively, and we have to think that if a school can open, probably we should open it as quickly as possible, the way Haryana Education Minister has said, maybe Adityanath ji is also. So as soon as we start the schooling, and this COVID will remain there for some time, pandemic will not go like this, vaccine will take little more time, but we have to take little risk to make the normal situation in due course of time, and we are ready to take that risk. We are just trying to analyze the situation for a few more days. All in teachers in the village school also can innovate and can find out some solution to go ahead and to beat this pandemic, to beat this COVID, and education should come to the mainframe again after a few months from now.
Well, so, when I hear the passion in your voice and the purpose in your thoughts, I realize why the Royal Global University is called the pride of the Northeast. So thank you for your views and enlightening us. So universities like the Royal Global University will see a lot of students from the Northeast also coming. You've got a lot of external students as well, but I think a lot of your focus area now will also be the Northeast. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with this. Royal Global University, I have been here since last 1.5 years. And what I notice is this is a melting pot of all cultures of the entire Northeast. You get people from Nagaland, you get people from Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh. Even we get students from Bhutan and Sikkim. So no doubt about it that the Royal Global University has become a point of attraction, an institution of choice for the students of this region. Coming to the very quickly, if I may be allowed to speak about the whatever this deliberation discourse that we have had this evening.
Yeah.
2 quick points. This COVID time had brought to us, I agree with some of the panelists, that it is an opportunity. We should take it as an opportunity. Now, opportunity for innovation and opportunity to introspect. I think this talk about, or if I may use the word rhetoric about the Indian education system being a legacy of the British and all that, we have been hearing it for a long time. But then all we need to work for is to bring in a new culture of education. The new culture of education, and this will not happen in 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 years. So that process must begin now. And secondly, I do agree that India is too vast a country. The problems, COVID is one problem, but that we have other issues coming up precipitated by the whole pandemic. And this requires very unique solutions. It's a unique problem, but we need unique solutions. We cannot have a common solution or the one common prescription. You cannot put it on a single grid and have a solution. Also, my second most important point is, while online digital mode is there and will probably stay, but then, as I would repeat, this is not the most ideal platform for education, because educational institutions are not just institutions from where education or knowledge is delivered. This is also a social institution. Educational institutions are social institutions where students get to learn about a lot of things, about values, about respect, about all of the things that really keep us going forward as a human race, as a civilized race. So all these have to be blended together. How it can be blended is a matter of what I said, of ushering in a new educational culture, and the time is here and time is now.
And I must tell you that, this country has got some of the best opinion makers, but very, very few solution providers, right? So I'm going to encourage each of you to make a solution a focus of your conversation in those 90 seconds of closure, because that's what's going to be the meat of the white paper. I'll start with you, Professor C.V. Sharma, with your vast experience. A couple of quick solutions which this country needs after you've heard the deliberations for today.
2 quick suggestions, as I have 90 seconds. You have a University Grants Commission which decides for the higher education. You need to have a commission for schools. You must have a school education commission which binds all the schools and all the school boards of the country together. You have different boards which have their own norms and standards. You don't have a national norms and standards. You must have that. So I would say that for innovation, today is the time. Today is the time when principals should have been allowed to decide on the school, their processes, and we would have come with many new formats if our principals were innovative and they would have been given that freedom. But to bind all this, my one strong recommendation would be, and so many principals are there should be a school education commission which binds all the school boards of the country together. We have one standards, one norms for the nation instead of different school boards of different states.
Your assessment should be stress-free. Particularly, this could be possible if we can give autonomy to our teachers. Because what I have learned from psychology, that like learning, assessment is also an enjoyable process. But in reality, assessment is a very stressful process, very painful process for children. And what I learned, assessment is a continuous process. But in reality, assessment is it takes place after your learning. And learning shuts down during assessment. In fact, learning and assessment should go simultaneously. Learning and assessment should be integrated. This has also been the guiding principle of one of the guiding principle of NCF 2005.
Sure.
So my concern is this could be possible if we could give what Professor Sharma told. If we could give autonomy to our teachers.
I personally feel that we are neglecting the lower classes, pre-primary, primary, middle school level. So we should have access to digital resources also for these classes. But now in this COVID situation, I feel that has become very important that we should reintroduce CCE, that is continuous and comprehensive evaluation, so that in future, even if the students are not being able to sit for regular exams, they can be assessed by their continuous, their continuous efforts, their continuous whatever they have presented throughout the year.
Online teaching is not the next big thing, it's the now big thing. Let's realize that hybrid education is going to be the future. Even when schools start and the COVID gets over, we are going to have online and offline education. So a big request to the government to invest in very strong connectivity and network. And now what is the need of the hour is to provide with all the government schools and everyone with smartphones. I think that is the solution to the education of the future.
To have an education forum across all the states and the UTs. If you can have an education forum led by you, sir, Chetan ji, that'll be great, so that we can have the like-minded people coming together and giving a good representation to any government. And if you can have a documentation, if you can get ideas, we can give in writing to you so that you can place it before the government. So that'll be great, sir. And the other factor is that, sir, why only government schools are getting the privilege? Why not the private schools? Because private school does much more than the government schools. So when we look at the private and the government, there's a there's a hell and heaven difference. The workload is being maximum done by the private and the credit goes to the government. So I feel there need to be equal distribution of finance.
Also, the fact is that overall expenditure in education has to go up multifold. We are woefully short of the figure of about 67% of GNP. We're not even about 1.5%. So we've got to enhance our education budget by at least 4 times.
Yes.
Perhaps that's one of the solutions.
There need to be, I think, a mental revolution. It is the complete change of mind at this point, because this was introduced by F.W. Taylor. He was the principal of, he is known as the principal of scientific management thinker. He introduced this. So the mental revolution is needed for all the stakeholders.
The central government should make a online independent department in each state, so that each state have the access with this online studies from rural to urban areas.
Perhaps there's also a thought for the PPP model, the private-public participation model. Maybe that can take us forward. If government funding comes, but it's utilized with the integrity, innovation of the professionals in the private space, maybe you have a good solution coming out of there as well. I often say that the PPP model also brings about the other 3 PPPs, that is being pragmatic, being positive, and being progressive. Well, the big C has hit us, big C called COVID. The only response can come from 3 C's. That's by being collective, creative, and corrective. And of course, final note, while I thank each and every one of you for your wonderful opinion, which will be a part of the white paper I submit to the government, don't forget that to educate better, you've got to edumate better.